Greetings to you, everyone, and welcome to My Christian Journey. I'm your host, Ngosa. And on today's episode of My Christian Journey, which is the very last episode in 2023, I have with me a lovely lady, Amanda. Hi, Amanda, and welcome to My Christian Journey.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on. And I feel honoured to be on the last episode of the year, so thank you.
I'm more than honored to have you on this episode of My Christian Journey. So to you that are watching me, I'm very grateful that you are able to come online and just engage with us on this episode of My Christian Journey, where we'll be looking at trauma and its relation to people wanting to harm themselves. Amanda is going to be sharing with us her story, and I'll just ask you to sit back, relax, and enjoy, and please pick one or two things that is going to help you as you prepare yourself for 2024. So Amanda, I'll start with you. Please introduce yourself to our viewers out there.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm Amanda Haigh, and I'm the founder of Fix Your Future and the author of Fix Your Future, actually. And Fix Your Future was set up in response to my trauma. So I was a survivor of domestic abuse, and I'd held on to the trauma for many, many years. We'll go into that a bit further, but during my recovery time, I wrote my memoir with all the self-help tools in the back of there that really helped me through that dark phase in my life, which was, it kind of gave me that kick up the arse, pardon the French, but that I needed really. And so I wrote my memoir. Took me a while to kind of even tell anybody about it. And then set up Fix Your Future Limited to then go on, and which is my passion, to help more survivors of domestic abuse become thrivers in life and become the best that they can. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Okay, all right. Amanda, on this platform, we have different people from all walks of life. I have pupils that were I'm a teacher by profession. I didn't tell you that. And I have my former pupils that I was teaching when I was back in Africa, and they could be wondering, what is domestic abuse? Would you just like to define what domestic abuse is, so that we just have a clear picture of what we're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people know domestic abuse to be physical. And obviously you can see the signs, you can see the bruises, you can see, the body injuries. But actually domestic abuse is both emotional and physical and sexual. It can be all those things. And it's when whoever your partner is treating you in the wrong way with disrespect, and you find yourself in an unhealthy relationship. And this can be, as I said, physical, but it can also be emotional, and that's the bit that we need to be more aware about, because that's the bit that is hard to recognize. And it's slow forms of coercion, and with something as simple as love bombing. And love bombing is when the partner begins telling you he loves you right in the beginning. You're his world, you're this, you get treated like a princess, and that's all part of the coercion. And it becomes, then once you think that person is like that, you kind of get hooked on that person, and sometimes it's hard to even spot the signs then. So it's for me, it's just really, really important of raising what are those red flags in relationships, what do we need to look out for, and how do we spot healthy relationships? How do we know when we're in a healthy relationship is important as well. And it goes for men and women. We've got survivors that are men, survivors that are women. it happens to us all, unfortunately.
Yeah. So is domestic abuse correlated to emotional distress? Like, what is emotional distress?
I would say emotional distress is the aftermath of any trauma that you may have had throughout your life. For me, when I wrote my book, I go right back to age 7. And so I talk about all the different stages in my life, from bullying, from addiction, from unhealthy relationships. And I kind of pieced it all together, and had to go back and understand all these traumas that led me into these unhealthy relationships, and why I didn't love myself. And so I think it's really important, if you're suffering with emotional distress, to really go back and unpick all those little traumas. And they can be the smallest trauma, but it can still affect you in life. And it's like we pick them up as we go along, like heavy rocks, in our backpack. There's another trauma, and until that backpack's absolutely full, and you explode because you can't carry it anymore.
You can't carry any more of it. Yeah, you're very right. Yeah, like it's not only about the partners, but also in a home. Like, I'll give you, in an African setup, we have a lot of parental abuse, which can be very traumatic on the children, the upbringing of the children in a home. You know what I mean? Like, back in Africa, sometimes you find that the things that parents will say to their children will just be so they'll have such a negative impact on the children. Even in classes, parents won't mind what they say to their children. The teachers won't mind what they say to their children, because to them it's normal, but they have a detrimental effect on the children, which can cause emotional distress, I guess. Yeah.
And the thing is, it's generational. So it's just a pattern of abuse right way back throughout families, and it's just learned behavior, unfortunately. So it's about really unpicking that learned behavior one bit by bit, taking out those rocks and emptying them one by one, and going, okay, now I understand why I'm behaving in that way. Now I know, that this is why I'm experiencing emotional distress. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay. So, what are the symptoms and causes of emotional distress? What are some of the symptoms of emotional distress?
I think, like you say, living and being brought up in a family that isn't, is abusive. It could be sexual abuse. You're being brought up in a family that, you've got a sexual abusive parent. My ex-husband, unfortunately, had, his dad was abusive to him when he was young. And so for years, he experienced mental health problems and distress through that, still to this day, because that's the thing, the trauma does never go away.
No, it doesn't.
It never, it's part of your life, but it can either be, you can either be that trauma for the rest of your life, or you can learn to just let go in a way that's healthy. This is not going to define me any longer. I'm going to bury, even though it's happened, I'm going to get these tools that I now know that would help me and move me forward. So it's finding those tools that work for you, I guess.
Yeah. And also you find that some of them, some people that have been through this emotional abuse, emotional distress, especially starting from the time they were growing up, you find that they'll also show signs of sometimes maybe bullying in class, like I don't know how I can put it, but they'll just show signs of maybe depressive signs. Did you ever have any of those signs when you were growing up, like, or even in your relationship with your husband, with your partner? Did you
I
have
think,
any of those?
yeah, I mean, I think I look back to, gosh, right from being young, where my mum was quite a big lady, and her name's Alma, and he used to call me Mini Alma. And as a child, even though it was just a bit of fun, fun taking from his part, for me, it was like, no, and I kind of then thought, oh no, I'm really fat as well. So you kind of then get that in your head that you're fat, and then that leads to, food disorders. So these are the things that, these, even though that was a little thing, that still led to, food eating disorders, or you would hide and eat food.
Yeah.
Just silly things like that. But, so it can be the smallest thing, or it can be a bigger trauma like sexual abuse, which, I can't imagine, because my husband was and still does suffer from that. He was self-harming, and it's very sad, because you want to help that person, but sometimes they're unreachable, and they have to be able to help themselves.
So basically what you're trying to say is that emotional distress can actually lead to people self-harming, and you've actually experienced that yourself with your husband, right?
Yeah. And it's awful to see when you feel that you can't help that person. And I can imagine it's very stressful for parents of drug addicts, or parents that know that their daughter is with an abuser, and they, everybody else can see it except for that person that's in it.
And I feel like it's the trend in the generations at the moment, like in this generation at the moment, like they don't mind, even if, I don't know if it's the desire to want validation from the partners. I really don't know, but like it's something that we really, really need to constantly speak out about, like be aware of the type of relationship that you are in, be aware that your mental health matters.
And you need to fill your own cup always first, and often we're the last people to fill our cups. We're doing everything for everybody else, and we get left till the last. And that's often how relationships end as well, because the partners are maybe working, and they've got children, and they become tired, and they leave the most important bit, which is the relationship, right for the last drips, and by that time people find that there isn't actually a relationship, because people haven't given it that time.
So Amanda, how did you come to a point of realizing that I have been through enough emotional distress, and it's time for me to come out?
So when in lockdown, I found myself in a narcissistic relationship, and the two relationships that were abusive that I've been in were very different. So 8 years prior to that, or 9 years prior to that, I was in a physically abusive relationship where I was stalked, and had some awful things done to me. But I then went in lockdown into a very different relationship, which was narcissistic, and because it was coercive and I didn't know the red flags that I needed to look out for, he'd just come out of a relationship a month prior to meeting me. He badmouthed his ex. All these things are all signs that you need to be aware of, which I wasn't. So for me, it was about going away, and really learning about what are those signs of a narcissist. What is a narcissist? I didn't even know what one was at the time. So it was just going away and doing all that learning and understanding that I think for me, to love myself and put myself first. I think that is so important. And I think if you don't, then you've got a fear of them bleeding on somebody else, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Did you ever feel like you needed validation from your partners in any of this?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I feel that I'm now really thankful that those happened, even though neither of them were nice.
Yeah.
I'm thankful that it happened because it made me go away and then do that inner work that I needed to do, and to not have that validation, I guess, and to really love myself from within, because that's the important part. Yeah. Is even though you're looking in that mirror and thinking, oh, I don't really like that person, but you're doing positive affirmations. I think the more that you do that, the more that then your brain actually goes, you're all right, and you begin to really love yourself again. And it's hard. It is hard.
What was it? Did you just reach that point where you just said, I need to love myself and I need to come out of this? Or did something happen between the two of you which made you come out of that relationship, which made you realize that you need to leave this relationship?
Yeah, so I was in the relationship in lockdown, and I had moved in with him.
Sorry to cut you short, Amanda. I'm trying to, was there any physical abuse in your relationship?
No, so this is where I'm getting to. Yeah, so I moved in with him in lockdown, and my eldest son and his wife had moved into my house in lockdown, so I have 3 sons. So I didn't have anywhere to come back to, and I'd been ghosted for 2 weeks by the person that I moved in with. Yeah. And I wanted to come home but couldn't because my eldest son and his daughter were there. Just took 2 days away, went to my friends just to get some headspace, and in those 2 days that ended up becoming a week. And at the end of the week he kept saying, I'm still not ready to talk to you. And at the end of the week I just was like, okay, if you're not ready to give me time to talk, then I need to finish this. And as absolutely heartbreaking as it was, I felt that I'd done the right thing, because a week later I found out he'd been seeing somebody else behind my back.
Oh.
Yeah, so it just gave me that kick up the arse that I needed, and I'm thankful now. It's weird, because at the time I really was in a dark place, massively dark place, but it gave me that kick that I needed, and I'm thankful that it's brought me to where I am now.
Wow. And I think I asked you this in our earlier conversation. Did you at any point feel like you needed to harm yourself? Because I did mention to say I really want to bring out, like, just this year, I'll mention it to you. This year I know of 2 people that have committed suicide, and it's really affected me in a way. Like, I wish I had reached out to them in any way, and I wish they had spoken to me, and maybe we could have come to a point. Did you, in your distress, did you at any point feel like self-harming, or did any of your partners feel like self-harming themselves?
I think more for somebody, for me as a survivor, I know that it can push some survivors to the brink of wanting to commit suicide because they feel that they've got nowhere else to turn or to run. But for me, no, I never got suicidal thoughts. It was more understanding why I was the way I was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you came to a point where you understood where you were. Did you have to ask yourself questions like, why am I here, and why am I allowing this to happen to me? Did you have to ask yourself any questions, just for
Yeah.
who might have been going through a similar situation as you went through? Like, if there's somebody out there who's listening to us, how did you come to that point? Did you ask yourself any questions, and then, yeah.
The start for me was journaling. So journaling every day, my thoughts or my feelings, and three things. I developed a gratitude journal because I wanted people to understand the change in your thought pattern when you become grateful for things. And gratitude is very underestimated in terms of that we're here every day. We're actually being able to take a breath, having food on our tables. Some people don't even get that privilege, having roofs over our heads. Just thinking about the three things every day that you can be grateful for can completely change your mindset in different ways, because often where our mind is set to recognize things that we're fearful of, we're always on the wary of, but when you start appreciating or coming from gratitude, it just changes that mindset, so that we're not always focusing on the negatives. We're focusing more on the positives.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. That's really, really interesting. And how did you get yourself to writing the book?
So the journaling ended up becoming the book, and it just poured out. And for me, I call it a page dump, because when you're writing things, if you're thinking things in your head, often we don't get it out of our head. So for me, I call it a page dump, because we're getting everything out on paper, and it's a really good practice of actually, why am I feeling this way? Because emotions, it's best to sit with that emotion. If you're feeling fearful, or you're feeling angry, or you're feeling depressed, what is that thing that's making me feel like that at the moment? And so just writing it down and getting it out as a page dump is just really good for your mental health, to kind of understand, right, why is it making me feel that way? And then a lot of self-love meditation for me. I meditate on a morning and an evening, and started with self-love meditations. I love meditating, and I think it's really important sometimes just to relax our minds, because we're always thinking. 80% of the time we're in our own heads. And so having that time just to meditate, breathe. And I mean, big in through your nose and having those deep breaths just relaxes. If you're feeling fearful or you're feeling stressed, just doing that 3 deep breaths can automatically make you relax. So it's just learning all these different techniques. As I said earlier, positive affirmations was another thing that I did. And when you don't like yourself and you're looking at yourself in the mirror, it's the hardest thing to go, actually, I am enough, or high five yourself, or smile at yourself in your eyes,
I always tell people out there to say, learn to smile. This is how I overcome certain fears within me. I just tell myself, Ngosa, Elizabeth, smile, and immediately I do that. It helps me calm down.
Yeah, we did laughter yoga, and it's so amazing is a laughter yoga, because it feels weird when you're in a group of people and you're laughing for no reason. But actually, when you're laughing for no reason, you then laugh in real life, and it's just infectious. So it's that's another good thing, laughter yoga.
Yeah. So what you've said, like realizing that you are enough, brings me to the question that I wanted to ask you, do you think people need to learn to really love themselves and not want validation from other people, especially in relationships, wanting validation from partners?
Yeah, it's really about setting boundaries. Boundaries are just so important, and being able to say no, because if you are one of those people that does require validation and you're going to clearly be a yes person, and not have your own opinion.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't have to go, well, say for example, a friend asks you to go out and you really don't want to.
Yeah.
No, and you don't have to say why, it's just no. And
No,
if that friend respects you enough, they'd go, that's fine, okay, no worries. So then you've got a true friend. If you've got a friend going, well, come on, you said you'd come out, da da da, and heckling you to come out, then sometimes that's not a true friend. So it's kind of just understanding those little things.
yeah. Is that a sign of narcissistic behavior, like people who don't want to understand your point of view?
Yeah, your boundaries. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a narcissistic tendency, yes.
Okay, so what makes people reach a point where they want to have validation from people? Would you, like, in your story, you talked about you were seeking validation even from your partners and everything. Is there any point that you got to where you thought that they needed to give you validation for the things that your decisions? Would you just highlight on that? Like,
I think it's understanding if you're empathic, and I think this is the tendency of narcissists, to find somebody that's an empath, because we're always a giving. And I think it's a beautiful skill, but if it's kind of hooked by a narcissist, it can be used in the wrong way. Yeah, so sorry, what else did you say in that question? What was the last part?
well, I was asking that what causes people to come to a stage where they're just seeking validation from others, like, especially in a relationship. Like, for you, what caused you to just want to seek validation from your partner? Like, before you came to an understanding to say this is not what you want. At some point, if I heard you right, you mentioned to say that you were seeking validation from your partner, like, for you to make certain decisions. Now, what causes somebody to get to that point where they feel like, oh, I need this person to validate my decisions?
It's looking outside for love. That is definitely, you're looking for validations in the wrong places instead of seeking validation from yourself. And I think that's the difference, when you don't love yourself truly and you haven't done that inner work. I think that's the important thing, to do that inner work. Then you won't seek validation from others. You won't be looking externally for love, because you'll already truly love yourself.
So in a situation where this person has been through so much trauma, and they've developed a low self-esteem, and you've come up with this program, Fix Your Future. How do you help such a person, like, to start loving themselves and accepting their situations in order to come out of their trauma and accept their position? Yeah.
Well, first you've got to understand what the trauma is. What is it that's making you become poorly or have mental health issues? What is understanding that trauma in the first place? Letting go and forgiveness is so important, because if we hold on to that trauma for the rest of our lives, and we'll never move forward ever, you know, because you're just in that constant circle, that cycle. So they're the kind of starting points of being able to move forward. But for me, I support women that really want to find their purpose again, because I was a business developer. I worked with people with learning disabilities for many years. But when I finished writing my book, I was like, right, what's for me now? You know, I felt like I had to go and support other survivors, and it's pushed me to that, you know, to become passionate about doing that. So I think for me, Fix Your Future is helping other women to find their purpose and to find their passion, and to move through the final parts of where you're holding onto that trauma, to let go and actually reach your goals, because everybody can reach their dreams. You know, you can do anything if you put your mind to it.
Yep, that's very true. Yeah, you can do anything as long as you put your mind to it. And I like what you said. You said don't focus on the negatives, but begin to start focusing on the positives of life, you know. And I think that's basically the starting point of coming out of your trauma. Stop focusing on what happened to you and start focusing on how best you relive your tomorrow. Wow, I really like that. Yeah.
And it's really about living in the present moment, because if we start worrying about what's going to happen in the future again, then you start stressing yourself. So I think it's really just living in the present moment, living in the now, waking up, being grateful every day for your next breath. You know, there's people that are ill in life, and, you know, cancer and all these illnesses, and we just need to, as people, take that step back and just be grateful that we're taking that next breath next day, you know, and we're opening our eyes. So I think, gratitude's, as I said earlier, you know, a massive mindset changer.
Yeah, and also I right now, as you were speaking, something just crossed my mind. Self-empowerment. Do you think dependency on, especially if we come back to emotional abuse in relationships setup, do you think dependency? I'll talk mostly about the African setup. Do you think the dependency syndrome on men is also related to people staying in abusive relationships?
Yeah, so what you're referring to is what I call a trauma bond. So if you've been, you know, if you're going through a narcissistic relationship or a coercive relationship, and you're not recognizing that in the beginning you're getting all this love bombing, and then towards the end you're holding on to for those crumbs of that love bombing at the beginning of the relationship, because you've been then programmed to think, oh, this is what he could be like, and I know that, you know, he has the potential to be like that, but actually now he's like this. So you're just holding on to those crumbs. And the other thing is the shame. You know, the shame of telling anybody or reaching out to anybody, because what will other people think? Will they believe me? Fear of the police not believing. There's all that stigma and shame that's attached to the abuse. So sometimes, you know, you don't reach out, or you've been isolated by your partner. Say, you know, he's taken over all your social medias and your phones, you know, and you've got no way of communicating with anybody actually.
Do such things happen, Amanda, where somebody takes over all your like your life, like somebody takes over your social media and everything? Do such things happen?
money, everything, things like that. Yeah, so you've not got any, you know, you can't do anything. You actually can't do anything because you've got no money. It's all going into his bank account.
You are doing the work and he's taking the money. I've not experienced it. That's why I'm a bit surprised. Sorry about that. Like,
no.
He takes all your money.
Financial abuse is very common. Yeah, unfortunately. And for people that are vulnerable, it's hugely a common thing. And because it's so coercive, you don't recognise those little red flag signs, you know, because we're not taught enough about that. I think things are changing now, thankfully, and I do think more and more people are becoming awoke, I'd say, to spiritual healing and understanding that there is a bigger force of nature, you know, besides us. And yeah.
Are you religious in any way, Amanda?
Do you know, I'm a Church of England, but I'm not really religious. But I really do believe that, you know, there is a power stronger than us. Absolutely.
Okay, that's lovely to know. Yeah, I'm very religious, and our podcast is called Christian Podcast, and I was very happy when you say that you don't mind that my platform is a Christian platform, and I'm happy to know that you have been going to the Church of England. Yeah, going back to our topic today, triggers. You were in this abusive relationship with this man, and you mentioned in our conversation to say this man was self-harming. Did that affect you in any way?
Oh, hugely. When we first got together, and I was the first person that he ever told about the abuse, and I was absolutely heartbroken, and I wanted to reach out, you know, to the parents straight away, because it was just this anger inside, and his family all completely disowned him. It was just awful, and denied it. But they, you know, they got their comeuppance, as you know, a lot of people do, and I think yeah, it was a really hard time, a really challenging time.
Was he at any point ready to come out of his past trauma? Did you try to help him at any point?
Yeah, I've helped him quite a lot, but then we had to separate and go our separate ways. He did meet somebody else, his second partner, and he's not with her anymore, unfortunately, either.
Okay, all right, yeah. You know, I'm asking this question because sometimes you find that I've heard stories of people who have encountered others self-harming, and it streams down to them, like they can't take it anymore, seeing this other person trying to harm themselves, and they too now start harming themselves. Did that occur to you, that because my partner is so broken and self-harming, I should do the same? Did it?
No. I was just more distressed for him, you know, and I think it's just hard, isn't it, for anybody that's with somebody that has gone through that, and trying to understand. I think until you've had that lived experience of a certain thing, it's hard for us to comment, and that's why I didn't really want to comment so much on the suicide. But you know, I can touch on it as far as my ex-husband was, you know, wanting to commit suicide, and had done quite a few times. But yeah, it's just distressing as from a partner's point of view. You know, you want them to be well, and it's unfortunate because you can't help them. And they've got to help themselves first. They've got to want to change, I think.
Yeah. Did he ever mention, like, were his parents also, like any of his parents abused in any way? Has it stemmed down?
I don't know, you know, I don't know. I can't answer that. I've no idea. But I did used to think, when I look back, there was things that were a bit odd when I used to go around to the house, you know, as a young, because I was only 17, 18 when I met my husband. So we were only young.
Okay, all right, yeah. we've talked enough about that. Let's talk about therapy, like women that are coming to your program, Fix Your Future. one can't reach out, like if one cannot afford therapy, is there any way that Fix Your Future is helping people? I know I read somewhere where you said you do retreats with women. How do you go about that?
I did a retreat with some women in a woodlands. It was a beautiful place just on the outskirts of a farm in just woodlands. It was just lovely. And that was for survivors of domestic abuse, and that was free because I'd managed to get some funding to deliver that. And I also, it's called Empowerment Through Entrepreneurship, so helping women to become empowered through entrepreneurship. So if they're wanting to set up their own business, as I said earlier, I've got business development experience, so I would help them find their passion and purpose and help them set up their own business. That's what they wanted to do.
Okay, so if anybody wants to reach out to you, how do they reach out to you, Amanda?
So I'm on all sorts of socials, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, LinkedIn. But if you just search for Amanda Haigh or Fix Your Future, my book's on Amazon, and I do have a gratitude journal as well. So if anybody does want to start practicing gratitude, I do have a journal on there too.
Is that also on Amazon?
Yeah, they're both so that's my book, Fix Your Future, and then the gratitude journal. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, I can. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Definitely. Immediately I finish this podcast, I'm going on Amazon and getting one of them.
Oh, amazing.
Book on the journal. Yeah, just I personally really need to start practicing gratitude as well. So most likely I'll start with the gratitude journal, and I'll start from there as well. Anything else that you would like to say to the viewers out there, Amanda?
Yeah, so I've just started what's called Innovative Entrepreneurs. So it's a program for with entrepreneurs that are innovative. Says it on the tin, really. But so next year I'm hoping to develop some software that can help women and survivors of domestic abuse become more trauma informed. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. So that's where I am.
Okay.
That's it at the moment. So I just feel very blessed for the people that have come into my life this last year, and I just feel so grateful to be where I am. And I think life puts you in that path for a certain reason, and I believe that I was put in that path to then go on and help other survivors become thrivers. I also do the podcast Heal with the Real, and it's spelled Heal with the Real, spelled REEL, and that is lots of survivors that come on and tell their story of how they've gone from survivor to thriver. So that's on YouTube if anyone wants to listen to that.
Okay, just say that again.
So it's Heal with the Real, so it's REEL, and it's on YouTube and Spotify.
Okay, all right. I hope the viewers were able to get that. Yeah. Anything else, Amanda? Anything you'd like to say to people out there, to any woman out there? Any words of encouragement that you'd like to give to anybody listening to us out there?
I think it's just doing that baby step every day, and no matter how small it is, even if you've maybe just got out of bed, even if you've just managed to get out of bed, give yourself a pat on the back for doing that. You could be maybe really depressed and not got out of that bed for a long time, or not wanting to, but give yourself that pat on the back for the small steps, the tiny things that you do, and those smaller steps will become bigger steps. That's the thing. And just keep going, pushing through the fear. If you're feeling fear, there's a reason why, and pushing through it is one of the hardest things, but actually it's the thing that will push you on to the next thing. So always push through your fear.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah. You see, you wanted to say something else.
I can't remember what I was going to add to that then, but yeah. And that's what I was going to say. Fear and excitement are kind of two of the very similar emotions. So it's, understanding, right, okay, I'm excited. So say if you're going on stage to do a speech and you're fearful, we'll actually change it into excitement. I'm excited, and it can just change the way that you then go on to deliver that speech, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah. Anything exciting that you like to do, Amanda, away from the topic?
Do you know I love dancing?
Oh,
And
wow.
and I'll talk a little bit about every morning I do exercise, and I have done for the last 3 or 4 years now. I'll get up and I'll do half an hour's exercise to music, and I'll get my music on, and it's the first thing before, I do a meditation and then I do my music, and it just sets me up for the day. So it's got me fit as well. So I'll get my exercise on YouTube, and I'll do my half an hour to my favourite music, which just puts me on a positive note for the day.
Yeah.
And what else? Sorry, what else did you say?
I was asking what you like to do apart.
So the other thing is dancing. I like modern jive, which is just such good fun. Just dancing makes me smile anyway. Yeah, so that's it.
Amanda, if you had a superpower, what would it be? I know you've got this superpower of fix your future, but other than that, if you had, like a superpower, like, I don't know if you watched Heroes ever, what do you think it would be?
It would be for everybody to understand emotional intelligence.
Wow.
Because I think that is the key.
Okay. You need to understand emotional intelligence.
Yeah. And what a kind world we'd live in then, if everybody was emotionally intelligent. It's just about spreading that kindness, isn't it?
Yeah, that's very true. And if you were to sit at a dinner table with any inspirational person out there that you would like to let me not even say inspirational person. If you were to be at a dinner table, which person would you really, really like to have at your dinner table?
Dolores Cannon.
Okay, and
Dolores
why?
I've been listening to her for a while now, and I just think she's just an incredible woman. If nobody's ever heard of her, she's quite an elderly lady, but go and just have a listen to her on YouTube. Dolores Cannon, incredible lady. Yeah, I'd love to sit next to her for a dinner, definitely. That would be really interesting.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I can't wait to have dinner with you so that we can talk more about Fix Your Future and the journey of mental health awareness. I got you there.
Oh no, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to come on and share my story, and hopefully, it's helped somebody else on their journey as well, because that's all we can do, isn't it? Share our stories and hopefully help others.
Yeah. Oh, well, Amanda, this has been an exciting moment. So to the viewers out there, I just hope and pray that you've learned one or two things. Personally, I have grabbed gratitude as one thing that I need to work on in my life. I need to move with gratitude, focus on the positives and not the negatives. I am also a survivor of trauma. I'm going to give my story one of these days, Amanda. And
Yes.
I'm very happy that you've mentioned to say you need not to focus on your past trauma, but begin to relive the moment, live your today, and focus on the positives, which I think is really, really important, so that you don't get to a point where you feel like you need to self-harm. You also talked about self-acceptance, like one needs to begin to love themselves, and basically all these points will lead you to accepting yourself and reliving the moment and not wallowing in the trauma that you had. Right, yeah. So this has been My Christian Journey, and I'm your host, Ngosa. And like I've always said it on My Christian Journey, on this platform, together we can. Please speak out. If you need somebody to talk to, I'm right here for you. And you can also reach out to Amanda on her socials, Fix Your Future on Facebook. And she's also chatting with different women who have been through abusive relationships, and they're sharing their stories. You can reach out, you can listen to their stories on YouTube. Amanda, just say the YouTube name again.
So it's Heal with the Real. So real is spelled R-E-E-L. So Heal with the Real.
The Real. So you can look out for that podcast on YouTube, and just listen to other people's stories. That will also help you heal. So wherever you are, always remember that together we can. Together, Amanda and I have come out and we've shared this beautiful story. Amanda has shared this beautiful story, and this is what the world is about. Let's look forward to 2024 with all let's look forward to 2024. Let's come out of those abusive relationships, begin to love yourself, and just accept that you have got value that you bring to the table. Thank you very much. This has been your host, Ngosa. Ta-da!